welcome to another Hi exclusive right here on Hi TV, your luxury channel. I'm here at the IIHS Multiversity here in Keralapatia today to be talking to a distinguished guest. Well, I have with me Miss Gabby Irwin, who is here for the first time in Sri Lanka and the first time here with us on Hi TV as well. She's the Head of Nursing and Workforce for NHS for the East England region. Now, Gabby, welcome to Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much.
And welcome to the Hi exclusive as well.
Thank you.
Well, let's get a start on our conversation. Now, this is your first time here and first time here at IIHS as well. What made you pick Sri Lanka and IIHS to go ahead with collaborations with NHS?
Well, I think Sri Lanka is obviously known as the Pearl in the middle of the Indian Ocean, so I knew that I was coming to something that was very, very special. So I think for us in the UK, nursing is really important as a profession. And I think we have an opportunity here. It's not just about what you do, but it's how you do it. And I think the Sri Lankan culture lends itself really well because the behaviours and the attitudes and the culture lends itself to a really caring profession.
Well, definitely sounds like you picked the right spot. Now, going forward, now let's talk a little bit about the specific goals that you have in mind with the partnership you have with IIHS and in providing better opportunities for our Sri Lankan nurses.
Yes, I think for us in the UK, we are really keen to be able to ensure that we are ethically recruiting, so making sure that we do things the right way for those who come to the UK. So our ethical recruitment is really important. On top of that, for us, it is about having a long-term sustainable approach to the employment of nursing staff and other healthcare professionals. We're not in the game, if you like, to just bring nurses over to the UK. What we'd like to do is be able to see a sustainable approach which sees the nurses come back to Sri Lanka, then come back to the UK or go to a different country. It gives them the opportunity to explore the world as part of a global workforce. So our whole stance is to be able to educate and achieve really high quality care for our patients.
Now, of course, these are wonderful opportunities that have been given to our nurses here in Sri Lanka. Now, Gabby, how does it affect their career development and their overall prospects getting this opportunity for someone?
Well, I think it gives the nurses, it gives them exposure to a different way of doing things. We have slightly different equipment in the UK, so there is an opportunity for them to learn about the latest technology that we're using in the UK. It allows them to see how we are working in a multidisciplinary approach. We've been doing that for a while, and I think there's a lot more that we can learn and that can be learnt from that opportunity in the UK. And we have fantastic opportunities for career development. So whilst international nurses usually come in on a certain level, we're able to progress our nurses further up the ladder, if you like. So we have nurses that come and you know, within a number of years are at director level. They're able to oversee wards, they're able to oversee large teams of staff and look after a large number of patients themselves. But I think not only does it expose them to the clinical areas, but it gives them the opportunity to see how we live in the UK, what the different impacts that there are on healthcare, on people's health, which expands their knowledge. And I think there's a general increase in confidence from being able to see how different people work. And we have a lot to learn from people in Sri Lanka. And I think that it's mutual, so there's learning on both sides for both of us.
Sounds fantastic. Now, well, these are the kind of opportunities and the prospects that you have in the future. We're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the support system that NHS gives for the nurses who go from Sri Lanka over to the UK. Welcome back to the show. Still in conversation with Ms. Gabby Irwin, and just a few moments ago we had the opportunity to see a few sets of books and equipment being donated from NHS over to the students here at IIHS. We thank you so much for the guidance, opportunity and the resources that you keep on giving on to our students.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Moving forward with the conversation, now we've talked about the prospects that our nurses can receive once they go to the UK. How about the support system that they receive? Is there a set of guiding rules or a set of guide people, should I say, there to help out our nurses once they go over to the UK?
Yes, absolutely. So in the UK, our national NHS colleagues are really clear that it's really important that the support mechanism is in place so that the whole experience for the international nurse is really, really good. So most of our hospitals are required to apply for a quality award, which basically means that these support processes and the support networks are in place for our international nurses to come to. So if a Sri Lankan nurse comes to the UK to work, he can be sure that there will be, for example, all of our hospitals have a buddy system so that they will be linked to somebody who will be able to support them, not just in terms of the clinical areas, but also within the communities as well, so that they will not be left on their own. They will always have somebody that they can go to and speak to if there's any problems at all. In addition to that, as part of the process of becoming a registered nurse in the NHS, all of our nurses have to go through the OSCE process. And as part of that OSCE process, the nurses will have practice educator facilitators. So from a clinical component, they will have practice educators who will take them through step by step by step what they need and what they need to learn. So we are constantly re-evaluating what the need is to be able to give them the appropriate support and training. That coupled with the pastoral care, and being able to link in, we have just the very beginnings of a diaspora group so that all of the Sri Lankan nurses would be able to link in with others who've come from Sri Lanka, which means that they have contact so they can exchange ideas and exchange views, and hopefully we can support with that as well.
Building on that, are there any future plans to sort of establish a framework of knowledge between NHS and the institutions here, so there's an exchange of knowledge between the students and the community?
Yes, I think we have, a framework you can apply a framework in many different ways in healthcare obviously, but I think for us the framework is all about the language, it's about the skills, and I think it's about the culture, so that we are able to A, provide our nurses with the skills that they need, B, we can give them the additional support with the English language training when that's something that is preventing them from progressing, and that will give them the skills to be able to work globally. So I think there is that framework whereby we can look at the curriculums, different curriculums, so whether it's a nursing curriculum, whether it's a paramedic curriculum, whether it's a midwifery curriculum, we can say, this is what we do in the UK. How are you working? How do you do that in Sri Lanka? What is the difference? What are the benefits of both of those curriculums? What do we need to do to make sure that there's a consistent approach so that everybody is ready and really well skilled when they reach the wards?
And you get the best of both worlds.
And you get the best of both worlds without a shadow of a doubt. Because what we really don't want to do is set people up to fail. We want people to really succeed. We want them to feel really happy in the work that they're doing. We want them to love the patients that they work with, love the environment that they're working in, and love the culture and the environment that they're living in. So we try on every level to support them in all of those different areas. And I think one of the things that the NHS would like to do and would like to do more of is to hear the voices of the nurses who come over, doctors, the paramedics, whichever profession you are in, so that we learn. We want to learn. We want to continuously learn and get better. So
there's an open channel of conversation and communication
absolutely,
as well.
Absolutely.
Apart from the language barrier, what are the other sort of challenges that a professional nurse who travels to UK will face, and the kind of assistance that you have on those parts, like for them to overcome those challenges?
Well, apart from the weather, because it's a bit cold sometimes in the UK. But yeah, I think the challenges, I think often it is about people, in our experience with international nurses, it's often the equipment, it's new technologies which people aren't necessarily used to, or it's new ways of working, and the practice educator that I talked about earlier is there to make sure that those training skills are put in place. So at whatever level, whether it's an individual level, or whether it's at a group level, or whether it's something bigger like a curriculum, we're there to make sure that at every step of the way that individual is genuinely looked after and feels confident to move forward. It's the confidence that we think is sometimes the thing that holds people back. We like to hear people's voices. So that's what we're aiming for, to support with.
Well, plenty more things to talk about. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to the show. Gabby, now we've been talking about IIHS and NHS quite a lot now. How is NHS being benefited, particularly through their partnership with IIHS?
Well, thank you for that. I think the benefit from the relationship that we have with IIHS and with other organisations in Sri Lanka is that there is a real openness and there is a real sense of excitement and innovation and progress. So I think one of the things that we have in common is that we're both really keen to progress things, including the work of like the digital technology. So being able to see the best of both worlds requires a certain mindset that you're both willing and wanting to move things forward. And I think along with that and the freedom of the students to learn in a way that is best suited to the students really makes for a very high caliber nurse in the IIHS environment, and I think that is very conducive to the kinds of nurses who we'd like to see in the UK.
There have been quite a few nurses who have gone from IIHS and joined NHS, and they're happily settled there in UK as well. Let's talk a little bit about a few success stories. I'm sure our viewers would like to know as well.
So yes, there have been many students who've come over to the UK and who are now working in the UK, which is really exciting. There are two in particular that I can think of. And they already had developed a real interest and a real love of a particular area. So they have become specialist nurses in the area that they're working in, so in respiratory, for example, or also in gastro nurses. So those nurses are able to have come into the NHS at the basic level, but have been able to progress through the different grades. So we started at band 5 in the UK, which is our the first grade for when you first get your NMC grade pin, and then you move up to band 6 and band 7, and at each stage you have more responsibility and more patients to look after, and perhaps a team that you can then encourage and you can inspire to work in the same way. So these nurses are able to work in that environment, and they are becoming ward managers, and I think that they're hoping to be in the Ministry of Health quite soon.
Well, there are so many other stories out there for you to look up to. There are so many success stories for you to look out to, and opportunities are available if you are actually in the lookout for it. Now, coming back again, every day there's a new challenge, there's technology-wise, there's new development. What do you see the role of technology, and how does it how can we manage it in a way where both worlds can come together and bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. The digital technology is taking over healthcare. I think we've started to see this over the last few years, but it is accelerating. Everybody has a phone, everybody can access their apps, everybody looks at their computers an awful lot. A lot of the training is now online, and COVID, of course, has brought that to the foreground, if you like, much faster than we had anticipated. And I think the benefits again of that is that, for example, something like the virtual simulation means that we can access care and treatment, diagnosis, etc. We can do that in the UK. At the same time, we can do that in Sri Lanka. so that we have the opportunity to share that learning across the board through digital technology. In addition, we have the opportunity, for example, to do things like the virtual wards. So in the UK, we can run virtual wards in the community in really remote parts of the country, which we do in the UK, but we can also do that in Sri Lanka too. So the methods that we're doing care, the methods that we are approaching health care now, means that we can reach out to people who perhaps wouldn't be able to access healthcare in the way that they did before. And I think that means that we can share the clinical knowledge and the advanced treatments at a much quicker rate, in a much more effective rate, and much more efficiently than we have ever done before. So digital is good. It needs careful monitoring. It needs to be safe, but it needs to be accessible to everybody. And one of the things that I think the NHS wants to ensure that wherever we work in the world, that access, that everybody has a fair access to healthcare treatments.
And lastly, is there any message you'd want to give out to the Sri Lankan healthcare professionals and the community and who are aspiring nurses, the benefits they can receive from this collaboration?
Yes, I think you have a fantastic opportunity to work with IIHS and the NHS collaboration. I think if you have an interest in nursing, if you have just a little bit of a curiosity about what it might be like, then I think you have the opportunity here to take that first step onto the pathway, and you would be welcome to contact any of us who are involved in IIHS or the NHS to join us in the future.
The information is out there, the opportunities are out there. It's for you to go ahead, reach out and grab it. Don't forget to log into the IIHS website and find out more information. And thank you so much, Gabby, for being with us here today.
Thank you.
Until we see you again with another Hi exclusive, take care and be safe.